Oh, oh God. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Gabester here. This is the normal tank guide for the Kor'kron Dark Shaman in Siege of Orgrimmar. And feel free to click on the annotations on screen to check out any of the other videos for this fight. And let's get started. So using two tanks for this fight, when you initially pull, you'll get the two dog mounts as well as the two bosses. So you can either tank both bosses at the start while the other tank holds the dogs until they're dead, or you can split up the bosses and then split up the dogs as well. The dogs will apply a bleed and do a kind of a cleave attack in front of them, but otherwise they die pretty quickly. So once your DPS gets those down, things become a little bit less hectic. So because of the Froststorm strike ability that's used very frequently on the current tank of Earthbreaker Haromm, you will need to tank swap, at least on Earthbreaker, pretty frequently on this fight. The Froststorm strike increases damage of future Froststorm strikes every stack. So that will force you to at least swap his tank target from time to time. The other boss, however, Wavebinder, does not require tank swaps at all if you don't want to. There's no reason to do so. Now, depending on your raid strategy, you may have the bosses tanked near one another, in which case swapping the target for Haromm is quite simple. But if you're tanking apart, then it's going to be a little more challenging. The best thing to do is to wait until a special ability has gone off. In particular, you don't want to move when Wavebinder's about to cast her slime ability, which is Foul Geyser, nor do you want to move Haromm when he's about to cast Ashen Wall. But if neither of those abilities are coming up for one boss or the other, then feel free to move your boss to get in a tank swap position. So to handle the tanking of Haromm, it's pretty basic. He doesn't have a lot going for him, unfortunately. As I mentioned, the stacking debuff will force you to tank swap, and when that stack gets pretty high, you may need to use some minor personal cooldowns to help your healers out with that. Other than that, the only thing that he does that you need to really watch for is Ashen Wall, and this is only going to be cast after he reaches 50% health or below. When the wall appears, you should see one on the right here of the screen in just a moment. There it is there. So this creates a wall of elementals, kind of based on his facing, it seems. So these elementals just stay stationary unless you get in melee range of one of them, and then they'll melee you. So as a tank, it's your job to move appropriately so that you or other melee that might be attacking Haromm don't get hit by the elemental wall. Other than that, though, you shouldn't really have to move him unless the raid as a whole is moving to a new position. Now, unlike Earthbreaker, tanking Kardris is quite difficult and really a whole different kettle of fish. She has a number of very annoying abilities that really force positioning and movement quite frequently. In addition, she uses a foul slime attack that will spawn a huge number of very dangerous adds. So for the most part, you should focus your tanking assignments based on that ability alone. The tank that has the best threat that they can gain from range, or just while not in melee range of their target, will be the best for tanking her for the most part. And again, these things don't matter quite as much if you're tanking the bosses on top of one another throughout most of the fight. So that said, her first main ability to watch for as a tank is her Toxic Storm, which is cast at 85% health and below. This kind of targets a random raid member and creates a purple cloud, as you can see there at the top of the screen. So just watch for that position. If it spawns on you as a tank or someone else near you, you may need to move her position slightly so that it's not a risk to anyone else in the raid. Now, this cloud will disappear after a minute of being active, so you can freely use the space given to you within the room and not have to worry about it too much. Now, the next ability she uses is the Foul Geyser, and this is the one I mentioned that is the key to tanking her. This is cast at 65% health and below, and when this first starts, she will basically spawn a series of slime puddles or spawns at the location of a melee in range of her. So usually as the tank, this is going to be you. So there you can see these foul slimes spawning, and the volley is sort of chasing our monk tank who was on her at the time. So he's trying to get threat on them by throwing his keg from range. The goal here is to try not to be in melee range of the slime if possible. While you're within melee range of any slime, it will deal 100,000 damage to you per second. And this is per slime as well. So obviously it's pretty dangerous to be in there. So if you can get threat from range or from a ground-based effect as they're spawning, that will be best. What worked for us was to have our tank kind of kite as the slimes were spawning in a small circle around the boss, or just away from the raid and from the boss as well. When the slimes have all spawned, if you can get some threat on them, but stay at range, then your range DPS can freely AE them down pretty easily. They don't have very much health. So that's the basic idea there. Once those are free, or rather once they're cleaned up, then you can move the boss about as you need to until the next cast comes up. Her final ability is Falling Ash. It's a huge red circle, and you really don't have to worry about it as a tank. It's quite obvious to avoid it. So it's really just a matter of positioning her based on her storm clouds and then handling those foul slime spawns. So that covers everything, I think, for the normal tank guide for Kor'kron Dark Shaman. Good luck, and as always, thanks for watching.